Welcome to i-TUTOR Economics NCERT series. Today we are going to deal with Chapter 4, Consumption and Investment Functions. In the previous chapters, we understood how employment and income are determined in an economy. Now, to understand how income changes over time, we need to study consumption and investment because they are the two main components of a national income. That means national income is equal to consumption plus investment. National income is equal to consumption plus investment. Here, consumption refers to the expenditure made by households on goods and services for satisfying current wants. And what about investment? Investment refers to the expenditure made on capital goods, that is, goods that help in producing more goods in the future, like machines, factories, and so on. So, these two components, consumption and investment, determine how much of the total output produced in the economy will be used now and how much will be used for future production. So, understanding their behavior helps policymakers and economists to stabilize income, create employment, and promote economic growth. Now, after learning so much about employment and income theories, let's move to an important concept, that is multiplier. This multiplier shows how a change in investment can lead to a bigger change in national income. How a change in investment can lead to a bigger change in national income. For example, when investment increases, what happens? Income also increases. But not just by the same amount, the total income increases many times due to multiplier effect. I hope you understand. So the size of this multiplier actually depends on how much people consume out of their income. That is own consumption function or marginal propensity to consume. Now remember, whatever part of income people don't spend becomes savings, and these savings are used for investment, which later become capital. So consumption, saving, investment, and income all are connected. Okay, consumption, saving, investment, and also income all are connected. The relationship between consumption and expenditure and capital expenditure is explained by the principle of accelerator. Okay, so all these together form the foundation of what we are going to study in chapter 4. Consumption and investment functions, everything, multiplier, accelerator, and super multiplier, everything are covered under this chapter. So, in this chapter, we are going to learn some very important macroeconomic concepts. We will start with the consumption function, meaning of consumption function, which shows how people spend their income. Then we will understand the psychological law of consumption given by Keynes. It explains how people's spending behavior changes as their income changes. Okay, next we will move to investment function. Which explains how and why businesses decide to invest. And after that, we will study the multiplier, accelerator, and finally the super multiplier, which together show how changes in investment can multiply and accelerate national income in an economy. So by the end of this chapter, you will clearly understand how consumption and investment together determine the level of income and growth in the economy. Okay, now let's start with the meaning of consumption function. Okay, the consumption function, it is also called propensity to consume. So it shows the relationship between income and consumption. This consumption function or propensity to consume shows the relationship between income and consumption. In simple words, it explains how people spend their income. As people earn more, what they do? They usually spend more. But not the entire additional income, some part of it is saved. So the consumption function shows how much of the total income in an economy is used for consumption. And mathematically, we can represent it as C is equal to function of Y. Okay, where C means consumption, Y means income, and F is function. So C is equal to function of Y. and this F, it indicates function of, meaning consumption depends on income. That's it. So we say consumption is a function of income. Consumption is a function of income. In other words, when income changes, consumption also changes. Okay. Now let's understand how the consumption function actually works. The consumption function shows the functional relationship between consumption and income. It shows the functional relationship between C means consumption and Y means income. It shows the functional relationship between consumption and income. Here C is the dependent variable. Okay, that means consumption depends on income. And Y is the independent variable, that means income determines consumption. And this relationship is studied under the assumption of ceteris paribus. Okay, ceteris paribus. That means other things remains the same. The word ceteris paribus is commonly used in economics, and it means that other things remaining the same. It is just an assumption. Okay, so that is why we are only looking at how consumption changes with income, keeping all other factors like prices, saving habits and expectations constant. Now this relation can be shown in the form of an equation. What is that equation? C is equal to A plus BY. C is equal to A plus BY. This is that equation. Okay. C means consumption. A means autonomous consumption. I will tell you what does it mean. Then B means marginal propensity to consume, and Y means income. So C is equal to A plus BY. C means consumption. Hope you know what is meant by consumption. And A means autonomous consumption. Okay, A means autonomous consumption. So what is the difference between consumption and autonomous consumption? Autonomous consumption means consumption even when income is equal to 0. Okay, autonomous consumption means consumption even when income is equal to 0. And B means marginal propensity to consume. What does that mean, MPC, or marginal propensity to consume? It means the fraction of additional income spent on consumption. It is the additional income spent on consumption, and Y means income. So C is equal to A plus BY. C means consumption, A means autonomous consumption, B means MPC, and also A plus BY. Y means income. So let's take an example. Okay. So look at this example. For example, if we take C is equal to 100 plus 0.8y. This is point, okay, 0.8y. What does it means? When income is equal to 0, consumption is equal to 100. This is autonomous consumption. That means people spend from past savings or borrow to survive. That means autonomous consumption means consumption even when income is 0. Okay, how they spend? They spend from past savings or they borrow to save. If income increases to 100, what happens? Consumption becomes 180. So when income increases to 200, what happens? Consumption becomes 260 and so on. So this shows that consumption rises as income rises, but not at the same rate. People save a small portion of their income as it increases. So this line shows that consumption rises as income rises, but not at the same rate. And people save a small portion of their income as it increases. So the line showing this relationship on the graph would slope upwards. So this line, okay, it will slope upward, starting from the point of autonomous consumption. It will start at the point of autonomous consumption. So autonomous consumption, that means this point. That means income when consumption when income is also 0. In short, consumption increases with income. Remember this one. Consumption increases when income increases, but not by the same proportion. Why? Because part of the income is also saved. That means income is always equal to consumption plus savings. So what happens? Income is also always equal to consumption plus saving. So what happens? When income increases, consumption also increases, but not at the same rate as income increase. Why? Because a part of income is also saved. Okay. Now look at this diagrammatic representation of the consumption function. In this graph, what does it shows? Income is measured in x-axis or horizontal axis. Consumption is measured in the y-axis, okay, or vertical axis. And there is a 45-degree line drawn from the origin. Origin means 0. And this 45-degree line is called zero saving line. Why? Because along this line, consumption equals income. Okay, that is, people are spending everything they earn and there is no savings. Now the consumption curve that starts above the origin, this line. Okay, because even when income is 0, people still consume something. This is called autonomous consumption. Okay, this is called autonomous consumption. So here, let's take an example. When y is equal to 120, y means income is equal to 120 and C is equal to 120. C also means consumption. Okay, and this is that point B. When y is equal to 180, C is equal to 170, S is equal to 10. S means savings is equal to 10. So in this diagram, income is measured in the horizontal axis and consumption is measured in the vertical axis. In 45-degree line at all levels, income and consumption are equal. And it is the linear consumption function based on the assumption that consumption changes by the same amount as does income. Thus, the consumption function measures not only the amount spent on consumption but also the amount saved. This is because the propensity to save is merely the propensity not to consume, and this 45-degree line may therefore be regarded as a zero saving line, and the shape and position of the C curve indicates the division of income between consumption and savings. So in short, the consumption function curve not only shows how much people spend but also indirectly how much they save, because the propensity to save is merely the propensity not to consume. Okay, now let's move to the next part. Technical attributes of the consumption function. What are those technical attributes? Average propensity to consume, marginal propensity to consume, average propensity to save, and marginal propensity to save. Let's look at one by one. Okay, now that we have understood the consumption function, okay, now let's look at some key measures related to the propensity to consume and also propensity to save. And these help us understand how much of the income people spend and how much they save. Let's learn them one by one. First one, average propensity to consume. That means APC. APC, average propensity to consume. What does this mean? The APC shows the ratio of total consumption to total income. Total consumption to total income. It tells us what portion of income is spent on consumption. So what is its formula? APC is equal to consumption by income, C by Y. Let me tell you an example. If income is equal to 200 and consumption is equal to 180, then what is APC? 180 divided by 200. That means 0.9 or 90%. That means people are spending 90% of their income on consumption. Hope you understand. Now, what is meant by marginal propensity to consume? APC means consumption by income, and what does this marginal propensity or MPC means? MPC shows how much consumption changes when income changes, and it tells us how much of each extra rupee of income is spent. So MPC is equal to delta C by delta Y. That means change in income divided by change in consumption divided by change in income. Let me tell you the example. If income increases from 200 to 300, what is the change in income here? 300 minus 200, that is 100. So delta Y is 100. And when consumption increases from 180 to 250, What is delta C here, or change in consumption here? 200 minus 180, that is 70. So how can we calculate MBC here? 70 divided by 100. 70 divided by 100, that is 0.7. So MBC is always positive but less than 1. Remember that point, okay? MBC is always positive but less than 1, because people spend a part of their additional income and save the rest. And what is meant by average propensity to save, or APS? This APS shows the ratio of total savings to total income. Total savings to total income. It tells us what portion of total income is saved, where S is savings and I is income. APS is equal to S by I. If income is 200, savings is 20, then what is APS? S by I, that means 20 by 200, or that is equal to 0.1 or 10%. Okay. Now, marginal propensity to save, MPS. This MPS shows how much saving changes when income changes. And what is its formula? Delta S by delta Y, where delta S means change in savings and delta Y means change in income. And let me tell you an example. If income increases from 100 and saving increases, if income increases by 100 and saving increases by 30, what is MPS here? 30 divided by 100, that is equal to 0.3%. Okay, so what is the formula for average propensity to consume? C by Y, or consumption by income. APC is equal to consumption by income. MPC is equal to delta C by delta Y, that means change in consumption divided by change in income. APS, or average propensity to save, is equal to S by Y, or saving divided by income. And marginal propensity to save, or MPS, is equal to delta S by delta Y. In economics, we always use Y to denote income. Remember that. Okay. Now let's look at the relationship between this MPS and MPC. MPS, that is marginal propensity to consume, and marginal propensity to save. Since every additional rupee of income is either spent or saved, so MPC plus MPS is always equal to 1. Also, APC plus APS is equal to 1. So remember this point. MPC plus MPS is always equal to 1, and APC plus APS is always equal to 1. Okay. Now we are going to learn about a very important concept given by John Maynard Keynes, or J.M. Keynes, called the psychological law of consumption. And this law is the foundation of Keynes' consumption theory. It explains how people spend and save when the income increases. What does this law say? Keynes said, people tend to increase their consumption as their income increases, but not by as much as the increase in their income. So let's understand with a simple example. Suppose your income increases by rupees 1000. Will you spend the entire rupees 1000 for consumption? No, you might spend 800 and save the rest 200, right? This means as income increases, consumption also increases, but not fully. Some part is saved. In simple words, we can say that when people earn more, they spend more, but they also start saving a part of their income. So consumption grows with income, but at a slower rate. This is what psychological law of consumption means. Why did Keynes call it psychological? Because it is based on human behavior, how people naturally think and act when they get more income. It's a natural human tendency to spend more to improve lifestyle, but also save for the future. Okay, so consumption and savings both increase with income, but consumption increase less rapidly. So what does this Keynes psychological law of consumption tells us? When income increases, when Y increases, consumption also rises, but by a smaller amount, and the remaining portion of income becomes savings. Therefore, both consumption and saving together rise with income. Okay. Now let's look at the assumptions of Keynes law. Assumptions of Keynes law. Keynes law means psychological law of consumption. Before we apply Keynes law, we must understand the conditions under which it works properly. So Keynes assumed certain things remains constant, otherwise the law won't hold true. So let's go one by one. First assumption is that ceteris paribus. That means other things remains constant. The first and most important assumption is ceteris paribus, which means all other things remains the same. It means that only income changes while other factors like distribution of income, people's habits and taste, then social changes or social custom, price levels, population size all remain unchanged, only income changes. That is what this ceteris paribus means. For example, if people suddenly develop new habits like luxury spending or prices rise sharply, what happens? Consumption may change for other reasons, not just by income. So Keynes said, to study the pure relationship between income and consumption, we must assume other things stay constant or remains the same. What is the next assumption? Existence of normal conditions. That means Keynes law works only under normal economic situations. If the economy faces abnormal conditions like war, revolution, depression or hyperinflation, then this law may not hold. For example, during a war or inflation, people may spend all their extra income on essential goods because of scarcity or fear of rising prices. So there will not be any savings. So Keynes said his law is valid only under normal, peaceful and stable conditions. Next assumption is laissez-faire. Laissez-faire capitalist economy. So this is a French term that means let do or let it be. In simple words, no government interference. Laissez-faire means no government interference. So Keynes assumed that people are free to decide how much to consume or save from their income without restrictions from the government. For example, if the government imposes heavier taxes, rationing or spending limits, then people's consumption behavior will not depend only on income. It will be controlled by policies. Hence, Keynes law applies best in a capitalist economy where individuals make their own consumption decisions freely. So what are the assumptions here? Assumptions of Keynes psychological law of consumption. Ceteris paribus, then existence of normal condition, laissez-faire, a capitalist economy. This Keynes didn't stop with just stating the law. Okay, he also explained 3 key propositions that arise from it. Let's break them down one by one with the examples. Okay, first proposition was consumption increases but less than income. As I told you earlier, when income increases, people do spend more, but not the entire extra income. A part of it is saved. Now, let's say your income increases by 10,000. You might spend 8,000 more on consumption like food, clothes, and entertainment and so on. But you might save rupees 2,000. So consumption increases, but less than proportionately to income. Why? Because as income rises, many basic wants are already satisfied. The need to spend on consumption gradually declines. Okay, what is the next proposition? Proposition number 2. Increased income is divided between consumption and savings. So this directly follows from the first proposition. If people don't spend the whole of their increased income, then the remaining part becomes savings. For example, from the previous case, out of 10,000 increased income, 8,000 is spent on consumption, 2,000 is saved. So both consumption and saving rise together. Why? Because we know that income is equal to consumption plus savings, or income is shared between the two. Every rupee earned must either be spent or saved. So there is no third option. And what is the third proposition? Proposition number 3. Okay, proposition number 3. With increased income, both consumption and saving also increase. Keynes said, whenever income increase, what happened? Both consumption and saving will increase in absolute terms. For example, at rupees 20,000 income, you may consume 18,000 and save 2,000. And when your income becomes 30,000, you may consume 25,000 and save 5,000. Here both consumption and saving have gone up. Neither has fallen, only their proportion has changed. Okay, so as income increases, the consumption goes upward, and the gap between consumption curve and the 45-degree line that we have shown you earlier, that is saving area, that widens, and it shows higher savings as income rises. Okay, so let me tell you the proposition once again. Consumption rises less than income, people save a part of their extra income. Second proposition was that increased income is divided between consumption and savings, both move together. The third proposition was both consumption and saving increase with income, they neither falls and saving gaps widens. Okay, now that we know the three basic propositions of Keynes law, right? Let's look at them numerically and diagrammatically to understand how they actually work. First one, proposition number 1, that is consumption increases but less than income. Let's say the national income increases by 60 crores, but the increase in consumption was only 50 crores. That means when income increases, people spend a portion of it, that is 50 crores, and save the remaining 10 crores that is 10 crores. So consumption rises less than proportionately to income. For example, when income rises from 120 crores to 180 crores, consumption rises from 120 crores to 170 crores. That means 10 crore, that is 180 minus 170, is saved. Look, as income grows, people do spend more, but not all of it. A part of it is automatically becoming saving. And proposition number 2, what was that? Yes, increased income is divided between consumption and saving. Now, this increased income of 60 crores is shared between consumption and saving. For instance, income rises from 180 crores to 240 crores. What happens? Consumption rises from 170 crores to 220 crores, and the rest 20 crores, that is 240 minus 220, it becomes saving. So every increase in income is divided. A portion goes to spending, that is consumption, and a portion goes into savings. Both consumption and saving grow hand in hand. One goes up for current needs and the other for future security. What was the third proposition? Yes, when with increase in income, both consumption and saving rise, neither of them decreases. For example, when income rises from 120 crores to 180 crores, what happens? Consumption increases from 120 to 170. Then at 240 crores, income consumption rises to 220 crores. So both consumption and saving have gone up. And this shows that people do not cut consumption when income rises. Instead, what will they do? They increase both consumption and saving, though savings grow faster. Okay. Now let's understand it through a graph. On the x-axis, let's take income. On the x-axis, let's take income. On the y-axis, savings and consumption. So the 45-degree line means this is 45-degree line. This 45-degree line represents all points where income is equal to consumption. That means people are neither saving nor dissaving. And the C curve, that means consumption curve, lies below the 45-degree line after a certain income level. Okay, after a certain income level. So showing that consumption increases but not as much as income. Okay. So as income increase, C curve rise upward, showing higher consumption, and the gap between the 45-degree line and the C curve widens, showing increase in savings. Okay, so that portion means consumption also increases but less than proportionally. Remaining part of income is saved, and hence both consumption and saving increase together, showing Keynes' psychological law in action. So let's stop it today. Thanks for watching. For more related contents, do like, share and subscribe.